Hidden Gems, Episode 72, Extended Banter, Board Game Retreat 2025. Welcome to Hidden Gems, a board game podcast where we review unusual, forgotten, and underappreciated board games. We're your hosts. My name is Chris.
I'm Bill.
And I'm Cameron. Thanks for listening to our show.
Man, did you notice me freeze up there a minute because I realized I didn't have my normal notes with me, and I was like, shoot, do I have this memorized?
Wow, you do? You don't have notes.
It turns out when you do something 72 times, you've got it memorized.
Yeah.
When
And
you're
also,
a youngster
after
like
72 times, we're still normally reading from our notes.
Right, totally. That's a crutch. I need them. Yeah, you probably noticed from our title, we're doing something a little different here, starting yet another different, unique kind of series, our extended banter sessions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a good reason to this time. We've got I think we're going broad.
Unlike the other times.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly.
Unlike our other crappy series.
We're going broad instead of deep this time, which I think is going to be kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Be interesting what people think about it.
Yeah, Cameron, why don't you elaborate on the genesis of our extended banter
Yeah, for
episodes?
sure. So one of the things that we really started to sit down as a team, the four of us, and think about in regards to the future of the show and everything toward the end of last year was like, man, we're kind of, I don't know, we were giving ourselves a little bit of a hard time for not releasing as frequently and as sort of punctually as we originally intended. And that's no good for you guys, and it's no good for us. We were kind of getting frustrated with ourselves and each other and all that. And we're like, how could we make this better? And so we had like a brainstorming session, and what we came up with was, well, look, what if we still deliver on our normal format as often as we can, but maybe there's another format that could work, and maybe we could come up with interesting things to talk about that are board game related, that are still providing our audience with cool hidden gems content that gets people jazzed up to play board games and try new stuff. And so this is kind of what came out of that conversation. So what we're going to do today, this episode, whenever you're listening to it, is we're going to do basically a recap of our experience at our recent board game getaway weekend. So to put that into some context, maybe Chris, you could jump in and kind of explain the history of the board game getaway annually.
Yeah, so we've been doing this for many, many years.
I think it's 10.
I think somebody
officially
said 10-year anniversary, and I have not, interestingly, been a part of that for the entire 10 years. So Jason, it's unfortunate he's not here tonight because he could speak more to this. He was one of the original founding members of this board game retreat, which started, I believe, with like 8 guys.
Yeah.
And it was primarily like a camping trip.
It was like
with some board games.
Yeah. They would like take Settlers of Catan and go stay in a no HVAC cabin
Right.
in the mountains for like a weekend.
Freezing
and
to
sleep
death.
in their sleeping bags and play board games.
Yeah, playing Power Grid. Yeah. Dominant Species. I know those were big ones because that's how old or how far this goes back is when those games were kind of more new.
Yeah.
Right? And so the guys would hike or camp or do whatever and then play some board games. And that has evolved into, I guess this trip was 22 people.
Yeah.
Sleeping on air mattresses and in the closet and all over the place. Awesome food, which we can talk about in a minute.
We've improved a lot on that score.
Beautiful location on Lake Gaston.
Beautiful location on Lake Gaston.
On a snowy weekend.
It was so nice. And actually, when I started going, was at Eric Stortz's beach house on the North Carolina coast,
Luxurious.
which is probably the best venue we've ever had.
Yeah.
And we're not able to maintain going there, but man, just an incredible venue.
Yeah.
But it's evolved a lot over the years. You know, every year I feel like it has a little bit of a different flavor. There was one year, Cameron, were you at the trip when we were keeping a scoreboard on the wall?
We did that at Stortz's house.
At Stortz's house. That only lasted 1 year, and that was probably a good thing. Because people got really competitive. Because when you've got your like name up on a board with 20 other dudes, and you've got like check marks next to your name for every game
tally
you've won,
marks,
it started morphing from jovial fun hangout to like pretty
I'm going
vicious.
to get on that board and I'm going to beat you. Yeah.
I tried that in my summer vacation with my family once, and I had set up like this Excel spreadsheet with pivot tables, and we were going to compare women to men, young to old. We were going to do all these different things.
It was
And you're
collecting
right.
all the data points.
It was like the Squid Games or something. Everybody was like so pissed off, and that lasted like 2 days, and I had to shut that down. But yeah. That's pretty funny.
I got my name on that board one time. It was for some obscure game that like no one cared about winning, but
Counts.
yeah,
Love
it
letter or
counts.
something.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, so many good memories. I think I have to talk about this one too while we're just kind of reminiscing about the trip. Do you remember when Matt Shelton like popped his Achilles tendon?
Yeah, that was at the Tees Lodge. That was one of the more epic locations. It's like this 1980s Christian getaway camp situation. The most
Christian Conference Center,
junky bunk beds, a kind of cool little kitchen, but then this like big wide open room with like the most 70s carpet you've ever seen.
And the most 70s furniture. It was kind of furniture that when you sat in it, you weren't sure if your butt was going to go all the way to the floor. You were just sinking
all the way in.
Because there was like no support. The springs were gone.
That was our attempt to get back to the whole rustic origins of the whole thing. And but it worked because we had a really big group that year. We were kind of combining the core that had developed in Greensboro and trying to meet in the middle. And we didn't keep that up long term, but it was an interesting couple of years.
It was because one of the founding members of the trip, John Sink, moved to Greensboro, and he had kind of developed a friendship with people in Greensboro that like games, and so we kind of had like a interesting like hybrid meeting for a couple of times, which was a lot of fun. But I got to tell this story. Jason might get mad at me for telling this, but I have to. It's just so hilarious.
Well, my brother-in-law, my now brother-in-law.
Yeah, so Shelton used to be like a punter in high school or something. And so him and Daniel Simmons, I think, they were just kind of like done playing games for the day. They want to do something different. So they took the football outside to like throw it around. Well, Matt starts punting the football, and he tore
just
some tendon.
Straight cold. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was freezing. So tore some tendon in his leg, right? We're in the middle of nowhere. It's like on Saturday. So we're trying to find an urgent care that's open to take him to because he's like in terrible pain. He has a trash can that he's like dry heaving into.
Oh, gosh.
Because he was in so much pain. We were like panicking, trying to figure out. And then all of a sudden, I hear this boom. Jason passed out in the floor.
Oh, no.
He just went down. Because I guess him seeing Matt white as a sheet, like dry heaving, like he went vasovagal. So he went down. Now I'm going into doctor mode. I'm like going to get him.
The most doctory I've ever seen Chris do. He like pulled his head into his lap and was like caressing his forehead. It was really sweet.
It was. Jason actually came to like in my arms. And he had this like.
Chris is like, get him on his side. He needs to have his head angled like this.
While the other guy's screaming in the corner.
It was crazy.
Oh,
it was
God.
like one of the wildest 5 minutes of my life. He came to and he like looked at me like.
Are you my dad?
Almost mad. Like he was so confused. And I was like, you went away for a little while. You're back now. It's okay.
Oh, God.
So long story short, these weekends are hilarious and fun for all different kind of reasons. Just so many good memories. Bill's birthday.
Chris's birthday.
Gave him Nemesis, for his birthday, which I hate, but I'm glad he has it. And then I guess we got to talk about, I'll let Cameron or Bill, you'll talk to the food situation.
Oh, that's Bill. You take that one.
Oh gosh, it's amazing. Well, the first year I went, I wanted to be a good citizen and like made my chicken chili and brought it, which is kind of okay. But I didn't really want to cook while I was there, and thought that this was a good thing to do. Well, eat and then go on. Holy crap! The things that they do now, like Zach last year, he did homemade sushi, made it right there, and it was unbelievable.
We did London broil
this year. London broil this year
Incredible.
with like the side of greens. I mean, all of it's great.
And Alex making
Caribbean
jerk chicken. Oh my goodness.
Oh, and the jerk chicken was off the hook. I mean, and then all of it, when we all chip in and pay for it, and it's like $5 or $6.
Oh,
I mean, for these meals,
so inexpensive for really, really good food.
Turns out when you buy in bulk for large groups, you can eat for really cheap. He was like, okay, it was like $100, and we all split 22 ways.
Right.
Yeah. We ate basically. Am I going to say this? Yes, I am. When my wife goes out with her girlfriends for weekends, she spends in one meal what we spend on the entire weekend.
Yeah.
Probably we spend less, honestly, because we just know how to do it now. I mean, it's just such a great trip.
Because the goal of the weekend is get as much game time, table time as we possibly can. We don't want to leave to go, have meals out and stuff like that. It's like, no, just not what we're there for. We want to pause long enough to eat and then get back to having fun and playing games.
But it's so cool to have guys who will step up and, take those 4 hours out of their day and knock something out of the park like that. I'm intimidated now to make any food anymore.
But you provided a bunch of really, really good snacks.
Oh,
so,
well,
you baked like 200 cookies.
I did make 200 cookies, but it was, No, it's a weekend for fun and putting on weight. So it was really good.
It's because we also have no reason not to have beers and bourbons at 11:30
or 3:30 in the morning when we're playing Tichu.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah,
it's a safe environment.
It's a safe environment. So yeah, we're excited to talk about that. And just to reiterate, like Cameron said, this is kind of like a new series for us. A lot of our listeners have told us over the years that they really enjoy our banter sessions. And we just saw this as a good way to, every now and then, this isn't how every episode is going to be, but every now and then have an episode where we don't follow our 3 review format, where we're going through a rules explanation and doing final thoughts and giving a score. We're just kind of talking about whatever. Now, as it turns out, we'll be talking about a lot of games tonight.
Yeah.
Sometimes we might talk about a couple of games and other stuff that we've been doing, just kind of going around the table, sharing. And the reason for that, again, as Cameron said, is this format will enable us to release more consistently without diminishing quality. And this is probably a me thing, but one of the things I really got hung up with is I felt like in order for us to do our due diligence to you all, we really need to play each review game a certain number of times to be able to give an informed review.
Yeah.
And sometimes that causes us to be late.
Mm-hmm.
But with extended banter, we can just throw those in if we're running behind and just talk about other stuff we've been playing. And it gives us a little more time to get those reviews tightened up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does. And I'm kind of excited about this one because it is on the heels of the weekend, and like all of them, I'm looking at my BGG thing, and I think I played 24 games over the 4 days, and so we're going to be able to talk about a bunch of games in this the next hour or whatever, and hopefully some of these will spark your interest.
Totally.
And I say, hey, that sounds like one I'd like to try.
Yeah. So before we go into the more formal session of the banter, the extended part of the extended banter. Is if you are enjoying this episode, I think the last thing we want to say is we have a Patreon, and we have a lot of folks that are enjoying our content over there on Patreon. And I just want to mention that this format is very much like what we try to do over on the Backstage podcast. We're kind of just talking about games at a higher level. We're usually going through lists, or we're talking about kind of more of a gaming topic rather than reviews. And so if you haven't been inclined to go over there and check out what we're doing on Patreon on the Backstage podcast, you could maybe do that if you like this episode, this type of an episode, because we won't be doing this for every episode, as we said, moving forward. But we've got, I think it's now 32, 33 Backstage podcast episodes, and they're very similar to this format.
Well, I was going to say, before we jump in, you want to go do our regular banter and talk about like what you did over Christmas?
Yeah, totally. Sure. Yeah. Before we get into the full-on game rush, I will talk a little bit about non-gamey things. I think we all have a little something we want to talk about. So we haven't released since a few days before Christmas, so I did want to just talk about Christmas really briefly. This year, my family and we did something a little bit different. We bargained, we negotiated with the children and said, hey, look, why don't we consider doing a little less Christmas presents under the tree this year? And instead, in exchange for that, why don't we take a family trip? And they actually agreed to that. So we actually went up to New York City. We did Christmas in New York, which is something I've never done. I personally haven't been to New York City since I was 18 years old.
Wow.
I'm 42 now, so it's been a long time. And I will be honest, I wasn't like super excited about the trip just because my memory of New York was not great. As an 18-year-old, I don't remember a lot of it, but I don't know. It didn't do a lot for me. I think New York at that time was a little seedier than it is now, right. I think. It would be a good way to put that, and I remember that. There were a lot of like adult entertainment things on Times Square. I specifically remember that.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. It didn't feel like a friendly place. I'm happy to report that I had a great time in New York City.
Cool.
Everybody that we ran into was super nice, never felt unsafe. The subway, while not the cleanest, because I can tell you, having ridden the subway or the the public transportation in Japan, which is just like the gold standard. Those people are just, everything is so clean. But the subway, it was fine.
Okay.
We got around just fine, and we had a really great time. So I'm just going to hit a couple of highlights.
Cool.
Allow me to be your travel guide.
Okay.
Give you an itinerary.
Do you
to
want
New York
some?
City.
Do you want some fun travel guide New York City music?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
All right. So if you're planning on traveling to New York City, listener, for food, I ate a lot of good food in New York. And this one's a little touristy, but it's worth it. It's touristy good. Touristy.
Okay.
And that was Katz Deli in the Lower East Side. Have either of y'all been here?
No.
Okay. So the Lower East Side is historically the Jewish community. Not so
Okay.
much anymore, but like in the 40s, I think more Jewish people lived in the Lower East Side than anywhere in the world.
Oh wow.
And so because of that, you have a lot of delis and a lot of kosher things. And Katz Deli is like the most famous. And
Okay.
you've probably seen it and not realized it, because if you look on like social media, it's the place that piles the meat on the sandwiches like 8 inches.
Is it like
And
cats?
I'm
Like the
not joking.
Mhm.
Katz.
Okay, TZ.
So they have a corned beef sandwich, a Reuben, and then like
Oh,
a
man.
pastrami on with mustard.
Mhm.
Dude, it's just incredible. And the servers, I was expecting them to be kind of rude because there's so many people in there and just like get up here and order.
Mhm.
So nice, friendly, giving you samples and stuff.
Dude, these sandwiches look amazing.
Oh my
I
gosh,
just
man.
looked them up I'm on their website. I'm so hungry right now.
Yeah, dude. I mean, they put the meat on like a mile high. It's
Wow.
insane.
That's cool.
Yeah, Katz Deli, incredible.
Cool.
I highly recommend it. The Lower East Side, also really cool place. My favorite experiences too. We'll get the obvious one out of the way. Broadway.
Mhm.
It's fun. We went to see Aladdin,
Oh, cool.
which wouldn't be my first choice, but
Yeah.
I have a 12 and a 14-year-old, so you kind of have to be more selective about what they would enjoy. Aladdin was an awesome show. The genie, the guy that plays the genie, was incredible. He was incredible. He kind of breaks the fourth wall because he's like a magical, so he talks to you a lot, kind of
Okay.
in character but out of scene, like fourth
Right.
wall kind of stuff. What's interesting about these long running shows is that the whole theater is in theme. They don't rotate through different productions like the DPAC does here.
Okay.
They run Aladdin all year, every year for multiple years. So the whole theater is
Oh,
like
wow.
A
I did
palace.
not know that.
done in the Aladdin style. And
Okay.
it's just super cool.
Wow.
Yeah. Highly recommend. If you've never been
So
to a
they have
Broadway
like
show,
multiple theaters that are
Yeah.
just always set up to run the same show.
most popular ones that don't close or rotate out, yeah, they just kind of have the theater designed
Wow.
in that way.
Cool. I should know this. I don't think I've ever shared this even with you guys. My cousin was a Rockette.
No
for-
way.
For a number of years. For almost like, I can't remember the exact number of years, but like more than most. Like she was there to where she was like, isn't she kind of old for being a Rockette? And she was still crushing it.
Yeah.
So
We
it's-
almost did that.
yeah.
At Radio City Music Hall, the Rockettes do like a Christmas show.
Yeah.
And we considered it, but we just didn't kind of have the time.
Okay.
But yeah.
yeah, I can't remember what years she was doing it, but it was for a long time. Her name's Alina Silver.
Yeah, we did see Radio City when we were there, and it was also pretty cool. I also want to quickly mention the Natural History Museum was awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Probably the best I've ever been to from like a natural history standpoint, talking about if you want to see dinosaur bones,
Yeah.
there were so many, it was almost too much.
Yeah.
Like I was like, okay, more dinosaurs. I mean, it was like floor after floor
Yeah.
of crazy bones.
Is that the Ben Stiller Night at the Museum? No, that's in Chicago, isn't
The
it?
Museum of Natural History? Yeah.
Well, there are lots of natural history museums.
Right.
I mean, there's one in D.C. I think there's one in Chicago.
Oh, true.
Sure.
The New York one,
Because I know
the
it's
New
not
York
the
one's like
DC one.
the most
Yeah.
like iconic one, right?
one of
Isn't the DC one the
D.C. one is
Smithsonian
also awesome.
Yeah.
It is not the Smithsonian.
It's not the
Two
Smithsonian
different
one. Oh,
places.
okay.
But yeah, I can attest it is also good. But the one other thing I want to mention is the Natural History Museum. In the center of it, there's like this orb. It's like a sphere. And then leading to it are these catwalks. It's a planetarium.
Oh, cool.
It is so cool.
Oh wow.
I love stuff like this anyways. I'm like a big space nerd. So you go in there and it's like an IMAX.
Okay.
Like the whole ceiling is
Yeah.
like a screen. and they just go through like galaxies and solar systems and stars, and it's just awesome.
It really, you almost have to spend almost have multiple days there, right? Because
you could. We only spent like half a day, and there was way more we could have done. But
I know I didn't see everything.
It was so great.
You should watch Night at the Museum because it is the New York one.
It is? Okay.
Yeah, you see the miniatures, I guess, the battles and stuff.
I would probably totally recognize it. There were so many exhibits. Mm-hmm. It was just such a cool place.
Cool.
Hidden gem was St. John the Divine Cathedral.
Okay.
It's kind of in a less busy part of town. The interior, like the sanctuary, is a football field long.
In New York City.
It was incredible.
Wow.
The architecture was amazing. The acoustics were super amazing. It was just a cool thing to see.
That's neat.
And then my last advice to you, traveler, as your travel guide, I would highly recommend, and I think this is part of the reason we had such a good time, staying downtown and not in Midtown. So Midtown is where Times Square is and Broadway and all that, and you should go there to see it. Midtown is crazy. It's crazy. So many people. It's nuts. Okay. But if you stay downtown, it's way less congested. And you can easily get on the subway lines, like the 3 main ones down there. Just made it so much better. So
cool.
My recommendations to you for New York City.
Like that. Thanks, tour guide Chris.
That's right.
Thank you, Chris. We did stay in Times Square and looking out the window and seeing the big billboard, the animated billboards was pretty cool. Madame Tussauds was like right below us.
Right. The Wax Museum we did not go. We did so many things. We did like Empire State, or no, we did Top of the Rock. We did Statue of Liberty. Those were the things I mentioned were in my opinion, the best things. But we did a lot.
Cool.
Just there's not enough time to do it all.
Because y'all were there for what, a week?
Like 5 days.
Okay.
Here's another word of advice. So I got like kind of tipsy before we went into Madame Tussauds. I'm there with my kids.
I mean, that was freaky.
well, it was, but I was there to take crazy pictures with all the wax museums. So I was
next to Michael Jackson with like the peace sign.
Exactly, just doing funny faces with just everyone, and I embarrassed my kids to death. And now there's photographic evidence of me, being a whatever I was. But anyway, you probably don't want to do that with your kids.
Embarrassing your kids on trips is part of the fun. We were in Grand Central Station, and I was videoing, and some people kind of like got in my way, and I was like, "Oh no, just get in here!" And they were like dancing. There was like a flash mob that broke out, and I was like, everyone was just in a good mood.
Yeah,
maybe it was Christmas. I don't know, but it just had a good feel. Oh, I'll mention one more thing real quick. When we were on the subway performers came on our car.
Oh wow!
And everybody got kind of freaked out at first, like. He just started like addressing everybody, and he was like, "You're safe. Everybody's safe. It's okay." He started playing this little boombox thing, and he started dancing in the car. He was like spinning around on the poles, like his feet were flying right over my head.
Wow.
He took Bryce's phone, my son, and spun around a pole and like was recording himself. It's the coolest thing.
That's so
hysterical.
wild.
It was just it was great. Just had a good time.
It's fun.
Yeah. Check out New York.
Cool. I will say, when we went to, we did not get the cliche, shove off kind of things because we asked for questions asked questions for directions a few times, and we were, given directions. They were super nice about it and whatever. So yeah.
I take that back. I had one negative encounter, and it was very brief. Otherwise, everybody was super nice.
Cool.
Okay. Go ahead. Oh, me? Well, I don't really know if I have anything.
We're not going to do good in the extended banter episodes if we don't have a banter thing.
Well, I could talk about some books I'm reading, but they're not all that exciting. I'm reading. Just finished Why Nations Fail, and in the middle of Nexus, and both of these are I don't know, just sort of real books. But Noah Harari wrote Sapiens and Homo Deus way back when that basically talks about human beings, or Homo sapiens, and all that time period between when they were first developed and we first had recorded history. And it's like, what were we doing all those, thousands and thousands of years? There was really no record. And what's the modern, viewpoint of that? So that part was really pretty cool. Homo Deus talks about really there's nothing on the planet now that's alive unless humans decide that they're going to, pay for it, right?
Okay.
Or they kind of allow it because we could probably kill it, other than like cockroaches and things like that. But the elephants are alive because
Or the sea beasts like 10,000 feet below sea level.
sea levels. Yeah. There's some things that are out there, but generally, we have to make allowances for it, and it's just interesting that we're just kind of at the top of the food chain in a bunch of different ways, and there's a lot of accidental things that are happening that. Because we've spread out and we're taking away environments and stuff like that we need to be conscientious that we're doing it when we don't necessarily know we're doing it.
Yeah.
Next, this is really about information flow, and it talks about telling stories and writing cave paintings to the invention of the document, and how that document meant that, I could share something with both of you, or you could share with something with somebody in the future, and how that changes. And then, radios and television, how that's a new method to share information. But all of those things have a human that's involved, right? There's a human on one side of that that's broadcasting the information to somebody else. And it makes a big point, and feel free to cut this out because
Dude, I love it.
Yeah. About talking about the difference between intelligence and a conscience. And that intelligence is things that react to information within their environment and then do something related to it that kind of makes sense for whatever the system is. For instance, like your immune system is a very intelligent system. There's stimulus that happens in your body and it responds intelligently. Or your cardiovascular system, you start moving and exercising, you start breathing harder and all these sorts of things. Intelligent. So there's all sorts of intelligent systems out there. Conscience is your ability to kind of view it. It's like the human component of all of that, right? So you apply a conscience to it. Well, we're coming into this age now, like with artificial intelligence, where we have this new entity. It's like an alien intelligence that we've just dropped on this planet. And it starts with the Facebook story that, this is kind of a bad one, but I don't even say this. That it is an intelligence that unless we start legislating things around it or paying attention to it, where we have a conscience that's monitoring what the AI is doing, it's going to get out of our control really easily.
I worry about AI a lot.
Yeah,
I really do.
And it isn't like a robot's going to take over things.
No, I don't mean it in that way. Yeah,
it's like
it's not Skynet. I'm not worried that robots are going to start making automatons and destroying us, but like kids not doing their homework but having AI write it. What are the repercussions of that? Because you would just never know, right? As a teacher, if my kid got on ChatGPT and was like, write a poem about this, and then they write that into a Word document and submit it, right? That is not good. You know what I mean? I feel like that, and it's just too easy, to do that, I think, as a kid,
Well, what we're on the cusp of is search engines going away, right? Because we have more and more of this oracle that's in our life that we talk to, like ChatGPT. We ask it questions, and we may not go to Google anymore or whatever your search engine is. We may go to these ChatGPT things, which is now this intelligence that we don't necessarily know what's returning to us, but we're getting to the point where we trust them really well and we rely on them.
Yeah,
but we
don't. Is it correct?
Yeah, we don't know if it's correct. We don't really know where it's getting information from. If we start asking them things like, well, who should I vote for, sorts of things, then it really has, huge impacts across our society.
It is interesting. It's like, what are you relying on it for versus are you relying on it for wisdom or are you relying on it for information? So like I use ChatGPT all the time now, especially for coding stuff because it's super good at coding. Now I have to guide it because it will do all sorts of crazy junk that
it will
do
meaningless
weird
things sometimes
that doesn't actually help me get my job done if I'm writing code. I've started writing code again recently, everybody. But I can guide it into very specific ways of giving me the thing that I want, and for that matter, writing it faster than I could write it.
Oh, and absolutely.
It's like I could get there because I've been doing it for 20 years, but like 17, okay. But but like it can do it faster than me. That's good, but I'm looking at it, I'm looking to it for give me information. When I use it on my phone, like a search engine, I'm like asking it to do calculations for me or to do like data gathering and parsing for me. But that's not necessarily how everyone uses it, right?
Right.
So that's like maybe what's concerning is that people are like asking it to help them have moral guidance or something like that.
I'll give one anecdote and then I'll stop. There was this group that was studying the AI and trying to find out its boundaries, and some of it's around the Turing test. And also in this book, it says that we're probably going to pass the Turing test within the next 5 years or something, which is going to be just crazy in and of itself. But
if you don't know what the Turing test is, just go to chat.openai.com and say, what is the Turing test?
That they
if it knows, we're all in trouble.
It does. And it'll ask you, why didn't you know this? This research group was trying to find out the limits of this AI engine, and they asked it to try to hack into something. And I can't remember exactly what it was. And so the AI ended up trying to do a bunch of different things, but the CAPTCHA things, the CAPTCHA, where you have to, shows you the funky letters.
Click on, right. Yeah.
Click on this to do whatever. And
click on the buses in this picture or something.
So it'll be interesting how soon, the optics are going to be able to do that. But the computer couldn't do it, but it figured out by itself to text somebody in the support saying, hey, I can't get in. Can you help me get in? And then the person asked them, who was part of the whole research thing, by the way, that knew that it was doing research on AI, knew enough to ask them, are you an AI engine? And the AI engine was thoughtful enough to say, I better not tell them if I really want to get in. And it says, no
way.
I'm visually impaired.
Are you telling me the AI lied?
The AI lied.
No way. Is this for real?
This is for real. I will tell you I will let you listen to it. Anyway,
oh my gosh.
And so got the guy to help them with the CAPTCHA and then to break into whatever it was. So,
no way.
So yeah, so
that almost, I don't think we're there, but that almost suggests sentience in a way.
Well,
no, it's
no, but it's given a task. So that's the whole thing.
Yeah, but it's understanding that it needs to lie to get its desired outcome, right?
I guess, but it knows the variables in its environment. Yeah, it knows that the rules are people should not give away the CAPTCHA things. That's probably stated on the page is like, don't give that information. So
they're like, hey, so and so just texted you a code. Can you tell me that code? 6-digit code.
Exactly. Anyway, I recommend this book to everybody just because I feel like it's a eminent importance that we understand it as a society. That what's coming down the pipe.
It's not a thing that we can just leave to the smarties in society to figure out for us. We got to develop our own opinions about it.
It threatens a lot of things. I'm going to say one more thing to this because this was crazy. Okay, I know Cameron's going to.
You didn't think you were getting into a ChatGPT conversation when you turned on the Board Game Podcast?
Yeah. So Linkin Park, my favorite band. The lead singer Chester Bennington, he passed away. They replaced years ago. He did. Okay. Like 5 or 6 years ago. They went on a hiatus, and then they replaced him with a female singer, Emily Armstrong. And they've written new music. Mm-hmm. Through AI, you can listen to this on YouTube. Some people have taken those new songs,
putting his voice in it,
and have his voice singing them. And it sounds just like him. It's insane. Almost like it's from the grave, and it feels like not right. You know what I mean? It's like really weird.
Yeah.
To hear him singing... It's his voice. It's him.
Yeah.
It's not him, but it sounds like him.
Yeah, sure.
It's how he would have sang.
Yeah, sure.
Right. Let's just put it that way. And you hear him singing these songs, and you're like, "Whoa, this is crazy."
Wild.
You know? What
I mean? There's a thing, and this is the last thing I'll say about it because it is a fascinating topic. But so, like, as you know, now that I'm a YouTuber, there are these things that YouTube just turned on for my channel, and it's where they automatically. Not just transcribe like the subtitles, but they actually create alternate audio tracks that all automatically appear on my videos. And it's essentially like AI dubbing, right? But it'll be someone that, that let's say sounds like a natural Spanish speaker or something like that, right? It's not my voice, but there are companies out there that will generate alternate tracks for your YouTube videos using an AI voice. There's a guy in my niche that does it, Cam Anderson. And I went, because he talked about it, because he was making this caveat. He was like, hey, there's one audio track that it sounds like it could be a little bit offensive because it's me speaking English. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like I'm being, I don't know, pejorative or something like that. But that's how this dialect works. And everyone that speaks that, like, that's what it sounds like. But I went and checked it out, and it sounds exactly like him.
Wow.
I've listened to a lot of this dude's videos. It sounds like he just like learned all these languages overnight. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Because obviously at this point, the dude has, I don't know, 60 videos or something like that worth of, audio of his voice available to train such a thing. But like, it's unreal. And I thought about it. I was like, could that be worth like doing it to expand all these other sort of language audiences? And I was like, I don't know that I want an AI footprint of my voice available to generate speech that I never spoke. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is wild.
All right, that was.
Thanks for taking us down that rabbit hole, Bill.
Sorry about that. Okay, Cameron,
good,
what are you
man.
up to?
I liked it.
All right, so I finally got to watch some TV.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I found a show. This is a Netflix show. It's a mini series. I would be surprised if there is really another episode or really another season to it. But I watched this whole first season. It's 8 episodes. It's starring Ted Danson. It's called Man on the Inside.
Okay.
Have you guys heard of this show?
I've seen it advertised.
You've seen it?
I'm not seeing it. No.
I saw it advertised very briefly, and I was like, I like Ted Danson.
Yeah.
So he's done most recently The Good Place. I think was one of his. And
Cheers.
Yeah, and it feels very much like one of his programs, right? Like very much like The Good Place, that type of humor. But the premise of the show is he's a widower and he's a former architecture professor, and he responds to an ad seeking a private investigation assistant. He becomes a mole in a secret investigation that takes place in a retirement community.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's what I got from the ad.
It is really, really funny. And it's really heartwarming.
Okay.
It's wild because I just feel like in the past several years, it's like you could either have wholesome or funny or like good story, but only 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And this one is like all 3 of them somehow. It's just good nature because obviously it stars, a lot of people that are facing, a lot of characters, let's say, that are facing the end of life.
Right.
They've faced losing their spouse of, decades. Same thing as this main character. And one of the sort of arcs that, that he's facing is how does he deal with the loss of his wife, right? And how has that impacted his relationship with his daughter? And it's just really, really good. The whole time I was like, this is great. This is great content coming from Netflix. It's not crass. Like, I mean, there's some funny topics type stuff, but it's not, it's not crass and gross or anything. And it's also just compelling. Like I actually have to confess this. I watched it in one day.
Wow. Nice.
They're 30-minute, it's 8 30-minute long episodes.
Oh, okay.
So they're not like super
Yeah.
long.
That's doable.
But I like started it early in the evening and was like, well, and like Casey fell asleep on my lap and I went to bed at like midnight. So it's really, really good. I highly recommend it. It's charming. It's funny. It's gripping. It's got that mystery thing.
Yeah.
And it's just got these like just good natured relationships and good humor.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good.
I was very impressed.
Been needing a TV rec. I haven't watched a lot of TV recently, although Severance season 2 is back, so that'll probably get me back in there because I freaking
fire
love
up
Severance.
the Apple TV Plus subscription just for that.
Exactly.
Right. If you get that, then you have to watch Monarch. You seen that? This one's got Kurt Russell.
Oh, okay. I like Kurt Russell.
Yeah, Kurt Russell. Monarch is the organization that hunts for like Godzilla and all the Titans kind of thing.
Oh, no
Okay.
way.
all
What, the
way
kaijus?
The kaijus, yes. And so it's about that organization, and like Kurt Russell's part of it, and it ends up, it's just lots of mayhem, and it's a series, and the production values on it are really good. I mean, it's a fun watch.
Nice.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah. So, Man on the Inside.
Cool.
Check it out.
Thanks, Cameron.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was fun non-board game banner.
Yeah.
So if you're ready for games, and
Should
you're
we
getting
get
bored
into
with
the
that,
games?
Should we get into the games? Yeah.
Let's do it.
Prepare yourself for a barrage of games, new and old, good or maybe bad. We'll find out, but we're
That's
going
right.
to kind of recap our experience. But we're going to do it very structured.
That's right.
So Bill is going to MC us through this process because he is the one that kind of came up with these interesting questions
Are they interesting, though?
I think they're interesting.
Okay,
They give us good jumping on points to talk about the games we're going to talk about tonight.
Let's do it.
Okay. Well, going into this weekend, I had the dreams that I was going to video people with my iPhone and ask them certain questions and bring it all back, and we'd incorporate it.
A documentary?
A documentary,
Nice.
right. And like flash back and forth, but yeah, that dream kind of failed with my first attempt. Yeah, this isn't. People aren't going to do.
You were trying to do like a field side interview.
Yeah,
Like, all
exactly.
right,
On
so
the
you
site
just played
reporting, right.
Medici. How do you feel?
With the backpack and the little tiny microphone.
Exactly.
Josiah got you by flipping over that third card, didn't he?
Right. How do you feel about that? Yeah, that wasn't going to go over well. So I segued into this. So we talked about it, and we thought kind of fun thing to do was to go around the table and go through the questions I
We'll
was going to
answer your
ask.
questions,
yeah,
Bill.
exactly.
Yes, I'm
Thank you,
ready.
guys. All right, so I'm going to do the easy softball for the first question. What was your favorite game that you played all across that 4-day weekend?
Yeah, so for me, I played a lot of games, all different kind of games. For my favorite game, though, I wanted to limit it to games that were new to me. Because if I would say what was my favorite game that I played, well, it would probably be like Teach You or Terraforming Mars or something like that. Nobody wants to hear that because we talk about those all the time. So my favorite new to me game was actually a game that really surprised me. Speaking of backstage, way back, do you remember when we did that Essen anticipation list? You were on it for sure, Bill. I don't know if you were on that one or not, Cameron, but our top 5 games we were most excited about that were coming out last year in Essen.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite game of the weekend was one of those games, and it's World Wonders. And the reason why it surprised me is that this game is much simpler than I realized. I was really basing my interest more on its table presence and what it looked like and this kind of tetromino building thing, which
it
I
looked
kind of
really
dig.
cool.
It has like a Feast for Odin look to it. It has some similarities, but it's much simpler than Feast for Odin.
Yeah.
That should be noted.
Feast for Odin's
awesome.
a little overwhelming.
Yes. It's a lot going on. Reason I say it's like Feast for Odin is not because of the worker placement. Okay, it doesn't have the worker placement like Feast for Odin, but you know, everybody has that board in front of them, that square grid where you're kind of tightly interlocking all of these little tiles into your little grid, covering up things. World Wonders has that.
Okay.
And I love stuff like that. There's something about my brain that likes to put things together tightly and neatly. And you're rewarded for that in this game because one of the things you score points for is when you put buildings into your grid. If they're completely surrounded on all sides by either buildings or roads, you get bonus points.
Okay.
That is easier said than done because these buildings are kind of weirdly shaped. And so you have to really be thoughtful about how you interlock it all, not to mention you can't just plop a building out in the middle of nowhere. You have to have a road going to it. So you have to account for, okay, I need to lay a road here. Then I can put my building here, and then I'm going to wrap the road around here so I can continue on. A lot of planning there.
And somebody else might steal the wonder that you're planning for. Right?
Absolutely. Or the roads, because the roads each round are limited. And if you really need those roads this round, that can really screw you up. So that's one aspect. The other aspect I have to mention, I've been talking a lot about the buildings, which are just cardboard tiles, but it's the wonders that you're building, which is the coolest. Did you see this when you walked by?
When I walked by the table, it was like so cool to see like the Giza Pyramid and Washington Monument and all that stuff sticking on the board. It's really great table
all
presence.
Different kinds of Lighthouse of Alexandria, all that kind of stuff. And they're wooden structures, unlike the buildings, which are cardboard that lay flat. These actually stand up off the board.
Nice.
And what's neat about the wonders is they all have requirements. They want to be next to certain building types, or it has to be built across the water or across the pond. So you have to build your city in such a way where you can satisfy it. But where the tension is introduced is that those wonders are public. So I might be trying to build a wonder like the pyramids, but Alex or Jason, whoever I'm playing with, might build it before me. Because they have satisfied the requirements to do so. So you're constantly looking at each other's board. If I can get there first, and another thing that's interesting is every round you start with 7 coins.
Mm-hmm.
Your income, you can't increase your production at all. At the end of the round, once you're done, you'll go back to 7 again. And then you'll play the round down to 7. But what's interesting is building your wonder is the last thing that you do. And you can spend any amount of money on it. So, for example, if I have 5 coins left, I can do a lot with 5 coins.
Mm-hmm.
But if I take the wonder, my money is depleted and I'm done.
Oh, wow.
And you might be asking yourself, well, why would you do that? Well, Jason might have the requirements on his board to build the wonder that I'm working towards, and so I want to build it before him. So I might just be like, all right, I'm taking it, and I go down to 0, but then I'm giving up a lot of actions.
Yeah.
Right.
So for being as simple as it was engaging. I just really found it to be a lot of fun. It's kind of right where I'm living right now, that solidly middleweight area. Not a lot of rules, but good depth of decisions. Really good. World Wonders.
So I happened to see that yesterday on Facebook Marketplace, and so I'm picking it up tomorrow for like $25.
Wow. For $25?
Uh-huh.
Oh, dude, that's a good deal.
That is a good deal.
It's a good-looking game.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought, too. And that one and Starship Captains. So I don't know how that
Oh,
would be.
yeah, this is the Star Trek game.
Yeah, we're doing like away missions and stuff
the
like
Star
that.
Trek analog game. I've not played it. It looks really cool.
It does look cool. I think it has mixed reviews on BGG, but I thought that...
Well, that sounds like our wheelhouse.
Exactly. Yeah, I might hit the table. Yeah, but I'm excited about picking up Wonders. I would have picked it up today, but we have snow here.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not sure I need to announce what my favorite game is. For the
Rising Sun.
Gosh, Chris, how'd you get? I might have to be more specific in saying that it's Jeff's Rising Sun.
That's right. Your judgment is clouded by the awesomeness of Jeff's copy.
Yeah, Jeff is just amazing. Jeff has taken the original board from Rising Sun, took it to Office Max, blew it up so that it's like, 4.5 feet by 3 feet.
It's huge.
It is huge. He's got a carpenter friend who has kind of laminated it to this picture frame thing, cut it up into 6, 1.5 foot by, boards, and then put dowels in the end of it so it fits together really tightly. So it's almost like this, acrylic thing. It looks awesome when it goes together. And then he's got like all the minis and the gods that go with it, and they're all painted.
All painted, yeah.
And so it's overwhelming, really, just from a table presence. You do feel like you're at a con, I guess.
Oh, 100%. It
looked like one of those.
I've actually played his copy before. It's an experience to play with his blinged out. It's just it does make it more fun, and I like
for
Rising
it being
Sun.
like a war type game. Like you guys were all sitting around that giant table, but like you could have stood up and we wouldn't have judged you. Like it was impressive on the table.
Oh yeah.
No, I was super excited about playing it because I originally played Ankh with him at Chris's birthday weekend 2 years ago, and it turned me on to it. And I know that's the family of 3 with Blood Rage is the first
Blood
one,
Rage,
of the trilogy. So anyway, I own Rising Sun. I bought it like a long time ago, and it's on my shelf of shame. So I'm glad to have played it, and I may never pull mine out after playing Jeff's now. But
I have it too. I like it.
You have a carpenter friend too.
Oh yeah,
a woodworking friend.
Hey, okay, Cameron, let's talk. I don't know if we want 2 of those though. I might have to do it with all or something. And I'm not sure I can paint. We have to have a paint party here, Chris. Do you paint your minis?
Chris knows how to paint.
I do paint minis. I actually played at some
paintwork.
Blood Rage minis, and they look awesome.
Yeah.
Here's the problem with me in painting is I have like these crazy neuroses where I can't finish a game painting because I'm so slow. I just get so obsessed with making it perfect.
Oh, you mean you've never finished a mini?
Well, I finished a mini, but Blood Rage has like 65
minis.
miniatures in it, and I've painted like 4 of them because I just get so wrapped up in it being perfect.
Eventually, you gotta just slap it on.
Well, Jeff has kind of mastered that. They look good, but if you look at them real close, you can tell they're not professionally done.
Right.
But
it's
nobody
acceptable
really
when you
cares.
need 15 of
that's the
copies
thing.
of those.
Yeah.
I always went and did the same thing when I got into really painting my D&D miniatures, but I only needed 3.
Right.
I did 1 for every character that I played.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, it's an awesome game. I don't necessarily go into details. It's asymmetrical clans, I guess, that you have on the board, and there's a lot to the game I could tell I didn't pick up, and it would take multiple iterations to figure out a really good strategy because there's a mechanism where you can betray your partner at the end that allows you to pick up 2 free units. And at the end of every round, the end of every period, there's a point scoring section where you get a token or a flag for territories that are out on the map. That's a big part of the scoring.
Yeah.
And that betrayal and tipping the troops' presence on each one of those things is a huge part of the game that I wasn't quite getting.
Yeah. Territory control is pivotal, and a lot of the clans kind of really focused on that. Like I remember the bird people, the people that can fly around can really just kind of swoop in and tip the balance. And that's really one of the best things I think about that game is the asymmetrical nature of the factions. The game really is tasking you on how to optimize your faction as much as possible. That's really the secret to winning, I think, is really figuring out how to utilize what your faction is good at as much as you can, right? And being an optimal in that. Which is a fun puzzle to solve because there's a lot of things you have to think about, but you really want to do that well.
Of course, we can't end the conversation about Rising Sun without giving a shout out to my boy Brandon, who took the W on that one. His first time coming to our board game weekend, and like I think it was one of the first games that he played, and he came out on top. So good job.
Also, his favorite game, as he told me.
What's that?
He told me at the end of the weekend that Rising Sun was his favorite.
Yeah. Good job, B.
Yeah. Awesome. It was just fun. He was to my right, and we were partners a few times.
Nice.
And we forgot to do this. Even in our extended banter episodes, even though these aren't like formal reviews, if we feel like we want to give a game a score, just based on a limited number of plays, again, this isn't official Hidden Gems review. It's just our feelings. I think our listeners would appreciate that. So on our 1 to 6 scale, what would you give Rising Sun, Bill?
Jess, I'd give that a 6 for sure. I don't know about the game itself. I mean, it's in the 5-ish area right now, but I feel like I need a few more plays to really kind of understand the mechanics of it.
Nice. For me, World Wonders would be a 5.
Okay.
And then we know what yours is.
6, baby.
Awesome.
Easy 6.
One of your favorites.
All right.
Okay, that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Let's go to the other end of the spectrum. What was your biggest disappointment this weekend?
Oh, I guess I'll start here. I had a lot, actually. Such a bummer. When I was doing my outlines for this, I actually had like several that I could kind of list off.
Just the negative Nancy.
I know, and everybody says that I love everything. Just like gives everything a 6.
Remember the guy you don't invite to your party.
That's exactly right. I haven't given a 6 out in a while, I might add.
That's true. It's because we were picking on you.
Yeah, probably. I've been very discerning lately, but this one was tough because this one, I know amongst a lot of our listeners and just people that enjoy our podcast, this is a really lauded game, a game that people really love and respect. It's really highly rated on BGG. It's like in the top 200 and like the 160s, I think.
What could it be?
I know. It pains me because I have been excited to try this. I was like, we're going to do it on the weekend. Jason was excited, and it just, at least for me, just didn't really land well, and that's Hansa Teutonica. And I know you guys both played Hansa Teutonica. Yeah. I played it twice over the weekend, and that's really part of the problem. And I'll explain why that is in a minute. But basically in Hansa Teutonica, it's an interesting game. It's kind of hard to explain. Now, I will preface this by saying I think the mechanisms here are pretty interesting, okay? This isn't why I didn't necessarily love it. But the idea is that the board is like a network. There's a bunch of cities or nodes or hubs that are connected by all these paths, and on the paths are these little places where you can put markers or your color cubes. And basically the way it works is that if each one of those spots along a path is occupied by a cube of your color, you can then later as an action pull those cubes up, and you are able to put a cube in one of the cities at either end of that connection, okay? And there are a few reasons you would do that, but the main reason, well, there are a few reasons you would do that. One, to build your network, because one of the ways you can score in this game is by multiplying the points your network scores. So that's one reason you would do it. Another reason is that if somebody later, either yourself or somebody else, scores that same route, if you control one and or both of those cities on either side of that connection, you'd score points. Okay, so that's also desirable. And then your player board, basically, it's just a mixture of different things where you can increase your actions, you can increase the number of workers you pull back into your active pool, you increase your network bonus, all these different things. And I would point out that the way that you get those benefits or up them is that on the board there are 5 different specific locations that if you pull up score a route connected to one of those, you can increase one of those things, either give yourself more actions or different benefits, basically. So that's the general idea. Oh, I should mention one more thing. This is a clever thing. So what if somebody jumps in on a route you're working on? Okay. One of the actions of this game is you can actually kick that person off of your route to a neighboring route, but that comes at a cost. It costs you cubes, and they actually get more cubes to disperse into those adjacent routes. That's actually a big part of the strategy in this game is learning when it would be a good idea to jump in and interfere on somebody's route so that you can get that bonus and also get in their way and cost them a little bit. So there are good things going on here. The problem with the game, to me, is that there's no variable setup in the game. It's very static. Nothing, if you use the same map, okay, I can hear you. I know there are people like this game, and I hear you saying, well, you just play with one of the other maps, and I get it. There are like 3 or 4 maps, I think. But when I played just the second time on the base game, I immediately just kind of felt, because I felt like I was evaluating the board, and I was like, okay, am I going to do the same thing I did last time?
Right.
Because I did win the first time. I didn't win the second time. But I immediately felt that urge to be like, well, it worked last time. Maybe I'll just do the same thing again, right? And I don't know. When a game, I feel that way at presentation, it always just feels weird. I really like games that give me something that change the way that I think about the game from the start. That's why I like Dominion. Mm-hmm. That's why I like Kingdom Builder. That's why I like Grand Austria Hotel. That's why I like Agricola. All those games, either by giving you a different display of cards or a different hand of cards or a different set of scoring objectives, change the way I'm thinking about a game that I understand, but I'm thinking about it differently.
Forced to solve the problem in a different way.
Right. Hansa Teutonica does not do that.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. The only thing that's variable is if people do different things in the game, and I get that, but to me, I immediately, in the second play, felt my enjoyment waning with that. You will fall into patterns of play that you kind of just figure out work. And I think we were even seeing that a little bit with the action space, right? I was talking about there's a spot on the board that's tied to giving yourself more actions. And that's a very desirable spot, seemingly. Maybe we were having groupthink, but I think Bill can attest to the fact that it's not fun when you're just taking 2 actions on your turn and other people at the table are taking 4 or maybe even 5.
Right.
Because they're hammering that spot, and I just don't see how the game diverts from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean, I only played it once. I did feel like I wanted to play it again because I get to the point where you are now, where you saw that. Certainly, I saw how valuable the actions were. I saw how well other people were, extending their lead upon me because I only had my 2 actions at the beginning. And
not of your own fault.
Yeah, no, I don't think
you just
so.
couldn't get in there.
Yeah,
Right.
it was everyone trying to get on the same.
It was just
routes
locked
that
up.
could get-
Yeah.
get
Were we playing with 4 or 5? 4?
I think we played with 4.
4
Yeah.
people. I thought about that afterwards and wondered if there was another place where I could have dropped some cubes that would have been higher value that
And
I
that's
could
what
have
I
picked up
wonder.
some late game scoring maybe and just come back to it once everybody did their feeding frenzy on actions and I could have had my presence in other places that you weren't there. But I feel like almost at turn 2 or 3 when you have double the movement points,
Right,
there
right.
wasn't any sort of lead that I was going to get unless I was in that spot.
I
So,
felt bad for you. I mean, I think you're right. I think if you're in that seat and you just can't get in on the action thing, you do have to just optimize elsewhere. But man, when you get 2/3 through the game and Ken's taking 5 actions per turn and you're just now getting to 3,
yeah.
that is just hard to overcome. It
Yeah.
feels like, I guess I would wrap it up by saying this sounds really negative, and I guess it does because I had such high hopes for it.
Mhm.
I think that's why it's my biggest disappointment. I don't think it's bad. It didn't offend me.
You thought it was going to be amazing.
Yeah, it just would be like a 3 for me on our scale. It was just kind of like, meh. Mechanisms are clever, but I just didn't feel the urge to play it again. But I was really expecting something big, and it just didn't land. So yeah, I would just say Hansa Teutonica is just okay for me.
Yeah, that's interesting because I still have a little bit of that impressed with all those cool mechanisms, and the board and all
Totally.
the things you were doing,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I would have to play it a couple more times I think to get where you are, but I think it's a cool game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely am still in the I would play it again camp. I don't have enough of a bad taste in my mouth yet to give up on it, I guess.
All right, Bill. What did you hate? What sucks?
Well, I'm not going to call it sucks. I mean, I think we led it with the biggest disappointment because this is kind of a slow slide. But a friend of mine was in Virginia who was a close-up magician champion at a antique shop, and he was buying this cool magician's table there, and he was negotiating with the owner. And on their shelves, they had a couple board games there, and he sent me pictures. And I said, "Hey, do you want any one of those?" And one of them turned out to be Flamme Rouge. I asked him to pick it up for me. So I don't know how old it was. I don't know why it was in an antique store, but I guess it's been around for a while.
Flamme Rouge?
Yeah.
Like 10 years.
Okay, so I don't know why it was in that store.
Maybe not even quite. Okay. Maybe like 8, something like that.
Okay, maybe because it has the pictures of the people in the 50s in there.
Yeah.
And riding the bikes on it. Anyway, I was pretty excited to play it because Heat was at last year's weekend.
Nah.
That's right. It got a lot of table play. It was fun watching Mike play for sure.
Yeah. Micropaz brings that game up for sure.
Absolutely. And this is a precursor to that. And my wife really loved watching Tour de France this year. So I thought if there's a game I can get my wife to play, maybe it's this one.
Yeah.
So that's why I picked it up. And I played it a couple times. Played it at the Thanksgiving. And there was one of the persons at the table that they took off ahead of the pack. This game is really you managing your exhaustion. There's a rule that if you're in the front of the pack and facing the wind, you have to put an exhaustion card into your deck. It's a card flipping game.
Yeah.
And so you put it in your discard pile, and your exhaustion card is 2 speed. And then the rest of your cards, you've got 2 different cyclers. One's your rouleur, the Roulier, I guess, who is your muscle man, or the guy who blocks the wind for you, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then you have a sprinter. And the highest number of your roller is 7. And then your sprinter has like 3 9s in it, I guess. So the game is managing getting close to the finish line, keeping your sprinters 9s, and deciding when you're going to go for it.
And then just go for it, yeah.
Exactly. And then and managing your exhaustion so that when you draw your cards, you have the card you need in your hand, kind of thing.
That is kind of very Heat-esque, the whole exhaustion thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very, very much Heat-esque. And I guess, is it made by the same people? I don't know.
That I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know either, but it certainly has echoes of it, one way, in one direction or the other. But this is the 3rd time I've played it.
Because I was going to say, you liked this game.
I did. I really did. I did. But it's, I have to give it a caveat. I haven't played it with any of the maps that are kind of past the tutorial, right? Where it has, brings in the curves, or like no drafting in here. Or there's some other special things that they do on the map that might change the strategy on this. But it just felt a little samey, or I guess I just knew what my strategy was.
Yeah.
And it was all about what cards I had in my hand, and I felt like I was in the peloton. I didn't win, by the way. I think Josiah won, but I just felt like a lot of it had to do with just what cards did I draw at the end. And I don't think I drew any exhaustion cards the whole time. So I was crossing the line, just barely making it.
You said Josiah won? That's funny. He's really good at these racing games. I don't know if you were over here when we played Snowtails, the dog racing game where you play the cards. He crushed us in that too. And that is a racing game.
Interesting.
Like, killed us.
He just groks racing.
I guess so. I don't know what it is.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Anyway, I had super high hopes for it, and I was expecting it to be really fun, and it was just sort of, that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But it wasn't great. So anyway.
Bummer.
That's my thoughts on Flamme Rouge. I will play it again, and I want to play it now with some of the other maps, I guess, that have special things that happen.
Yeah.
And maybe that'll change it.
Okay.
So for me, my main disappointment, and it's hard to truly answer this question, because I should say all the games that I was like really like hoping that I might play or thought would be interesting, I didn't feel super disappointed about, but this one was one that our friend Mike really wanted to get to a table during the weekend. He worked so hard to learn the rules, and we were like picking on him about like, you got to be able to teach it, we're not going to play, and then you had to muddle through the rules. And so I was like, you know what? He did it. They need another player. I'll join this game. This game is Shogun.
Yeah. Bummer.
And in general, like, this probably wasn't my like
this isn't your kind
flavor of game. It's a dudes on a map, area control type game. And it's, I don't know, like, it just felt very flat. The order of the actions that you take, basically, like, you start out the game and it's like a map.
Japan.
You draft your provinces that you start with at the beginning. So you start up with this like base of control.
Yeah.
And then the order of the actions that are available to you to like supply and take money and take food that you have to have, or else your people will revolt against you and you're fighting against your own, citizens, and like, bolstering your troops and attacking and stuff like that. So the actions are all randomly determined. And so it's just really difficult to, like, even if you choose all the things that you're going to do, to, like, I don't know, do what you want, basically. Like, what you would want to do if you were just playing, like, a plain area control game, because the order of the actions always change. So you think you're going to, like, resupply, but you find yourself, like, fighting before you've resupplied and stuff like that. And, like, I don't know, it didn't work great for me. And the main issue that I have with this is this weird randomized dice tower thing that
I was wondering when this was coming.
You to use. So like all your dudes on the map in your various provinces are represented by a number of cubes, right? So it's like pretty plain. But what happens when you have combat with someone is you have this dice tower, and it has like multiple other tiers inside of it that you precede this tower with cubes. So you drop a bunch of, a set of random cubes, and they're representing all the players at the table, and some green ones that represent the farmers, basically. Mm-hmm. And when you have a battle, you take all of the cubes for both competing provinces and all of the ones that are sitting in the base that have previously fallen out of the seeded dice tower, and you drop all of them into the thing. And so what happens is a random set of cubes fall out. And
what you throw in doesn't necessarily come out.
Correct.
And as a matter of fact, some things that weren't thrown in might come out.
And and that can offset the balance of the confrontation, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you could have a heavy advantage, 7 versus 3 or something like that. And you pick up all the cubes, you put them in the tower, and then what comes out, and like your opponent won with this incredible disadvantage.
That's exciting.
Because your cubes are like jammed up somewhere inside of this stupid tower. I don't know. Maybe people get excited about that, but like it felt anything but very strategic. And
I guess so I've not played this game.
Sure.
I've thought a lot about this game recently because I want to play it. It's been on my to play for a while. It does interest me. If your cubes do get hung up in the tower, then theoretically they have to come out at some point, right? I guess but
in a strategic dudes on a map type game, you need to leverage your power when you're trying to
when you're trying to make a move. Yeah, I get it.
You don't want to be like, well, I guess I'll just win a defensive action later, like randomly. I don't know. Like, I don't. It frustrated me. Nevertheless, we're supposed to play 2 years of this, right? 8 seasons. Right. We got through 4. Everyone decided. Well, a few people decided that they wanted to go and jump in the freezing cold lake, and we took that opportunity to be like, game over, let's go.
Yeah,
so we didn't have to play like 2 more hours of that. Am I glad that I learned how to play the game? Yes, because now I can avoid agreeing to play it later.
I still want to play it. I still question if maybe Baglio was missing rules, but
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. He seemed very confident.
He looked like he was cramming for a test over there. The box showed up. It was still in shrink. He hadn't punched anything. He's like, well, I want to play this game really bad. He's like pulling up a video online, like watching somebody teach the rules. And I was like, Mike, do you really know how to teach this? Do you really know what's going on here?
I'm trying to give him credit because he really, it was not a long teach. And he felt very confident that we were doing things right. And it felt like things were being played correctly.
Okay.
But yeah, I think
random.
I think the problem is the game itself.
I respect that. What would you score it?
Deeply a 3.
Really, not a 2?
I mean, probably. Yeah, probably a 2.
I was getting ready to say, because when you came up from downstairs, you looked like you had 2 on your face.
Yeah, I was not having fun. I was having fun with the people. Like, for example, like we said, Rapaz, I don't even know if he listens to the podcast, but like, that dude is just fun.
Yeah, he's fun.
Especially on like a high intensity game where it's very confrontational. Like he was the life of the party. Like, so yeah, probably 2.
Okay.
Well, that was fun. Let's go to something that's a little more positive note now. So, what game surprised you with like how fun it was, or what was your hidden gem, so to speak, this weekend?
Bill, you start this time. I think it's on you.
Oh my gosh, I got to start. Well, I got to mention first. We didn't talk about having a cocktail, but all weekend long, not all weekend, last 2 nights, my wife started drinking this a couple weeks ago, but started drinking shandies. I don't know if you know, it's a beer and lemonade, and it's a good all day drink to me because I started drinking that early afternoon and had something to drink all day instead of the bourbon because I'd be asleep by 6.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, but I'm having that tonight. So
with your Minute Maid lemonade,
with my Minute Maid,
contains 3% juice,
but lots of fructose.
There you go.
Anyway, okay, what was my hidden gem? I got to find it. This was a game that Ken brought the first day, the card game, Sears catalog.
Oh yeah. This is also my hidden gem.
Is it?
It is.
Yep.
We'll share. No, we'll share in our discussion
about it. Yeah. It was a super cool card game. It's
oh heck yeah.
It's a shedding game that was kind of unusual in that at the end of the round scoring, you can either get rid of all your cards and score 0 points, but at that point, when somebody dumps their entire hand, the rest of the people at the table will score by looking at the highest or lowest number card they have in the can. You'll have numbers from 2 to 12, I think.
I think 12 or 13. Yeah.
Yeah, 12 or 13. And then artifact cards. But you'll take the lowest number of those. So if you have like a 5 and a 12 left in your hand, you would take the 5, and you have 2 cards left in your hand, so you would score 3.
Right. 5 minus 2 cards in your hand for 3 points. So what you're incentivized to do is you want to have high value cards in your hand and not a lot of them.
Right.
Which is not easy to do.
Absolutely.
Because of a very specific rule. But I'll let you keep going, Bill.
Oh, well, that's you can jump into. You're the rules expert. I will also say that if you get stuck with a artifact in your hand, which gives you superpowers, that was kind of cool.
They're very helpful.
Yeah, they're like it could be a wild card, or you can add a number to the end of a straight, or things like that. It resets your hand to 0, so it doesn't matter what card you have in your hand. You start subtracting the cards at 0. So we'll go with one last thought. There is. Then from a strategy point of view, you can either try to get points or you can try to go out really quickly and make everybody else get stuck with a bunch of cards in their hands, especially with artifacts in your hands, because they can get a lot of minus points if you do it early enough.
Yeah, there's a very critical moment in this game, just to reiterate some of the finer details of the rules, because this is just so neat, right? We play a lot of card shedders. I mean, Tichu is a shedding, ladder climbing game that we love. And this one is, I mean, it's up there. I'm not saying it's as good as Tichu, but it's just so neat how this works. So as Bill said, if you're the first to go out, you score 0, which isn't great, but it could be good. Because if you go out and everybody else at the table has 6 or more cards in their hand, they will lose a point for every card they're holding. So there is a strategy there of rushing the end and catching people with lots of cards in their hands. However, if you have 5 or fewer cards in your hand, like Bill said, you'll score your highest value card minus the number you're holding, right? And that's where you want to be. But here's the rub. This is what's really cool about this game, is that once you cross that magical threshold of going from 6 cards in your hand to 5 or less, you can no longer pass. Okay? If you have 6 or more cards in your hand, even if you have a combination of cards that plays, whether it be a single or a pair or a straight or whatever, you can choose not to play it. But if you have 5 or fewer, you're forced to play. Why is that interesting? Well, remember, to do well, what you're trying to do is have high cards in your hand when the game ends. And when you are holding high cards, they almost always play. Right? So there's this real tension in the game of trying to figure out, when am I going to drop below 6, right? Because if everybody goes below 6 and you go out first, you're screwed. You're going to do the worst.
Right.
But if you go below 6 too fast, you might be going out first, right? Mm-hmm. But then there's this whole thing of, if you're skittish about going below 6, somebody might go out real fast and then you take negative points. So there's this real interesting thing about when do I cross that threshold from 6 to 5? What does that look like? How do I still do that and trying to hold high cards in my hand that won't play somehow? It's such a neat balancing act. That's like, you just have to experience it. But I thought it was fantastic.
To me, I thought the theme on it was pretty funny. The seer is Seers, like the magician seer, and it's from who's the company?
Bezier. Yeah, they're the ones that do Werewolf, which have the seers, right? If you played Werewolf, you have seer is like a classic role in Werewolf. And so they're playing on that. The seers catalog is like the shopping catalog for the seers or the magicians. It's got all these weird magical artifacts in it. This is why it was my biggest surprise, is because I thought this name was just so stupid. I was like, this sounds dumb. I'm not really excited to play it. Ken was like, let's play a Sears catalog. And I was like, ugh, Sears catalog. It sounds stupid.
Yeah.
I just didn't really get it.
But then you look at all the cards and it's like funny puns on
and
werewolf stuff.
And it makes sense, but the game sold it. I will just say right now, this game, if I was starting my top 100 today, would be in my top 100.
Okay.
And it would be high because I'm giving this game a 6.
Oh, wow.
Sears catalog is incredible. If you've not played it, you need to try it. If you like these ladder climbing card games, it is awesome.
That may be in my top 100.
when you rewrite your top 100 next week.
Exactly.
I'm a man of principle, Bill. Sticking to my guns. What would you score it?
Probably a 5. I can't commit.
Yeah, you just can't give out a 6, can you?
I can't.
What's holding you back?
No, a tattoo or something. It's hard.
I'd give it a 4. I need to play it more. It could go up from there, but I had a hard time wrapping my brain around the right way to play the artifact cards. That was like a mental hurdle for me.
Mm.
I think with some practice, I could improve my skills, and I think I would maybe rate it higher.
Yeah, getting stuck with those artifact cards in your hand really stings, and it is easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also great because you don't want to play them too early. You want to play them at the optimal time, but if you hang on to them too long, they can bite you. And there are actually some cards that can get more of them in your hands, which is even more powerful, but even more risky. Right? I don't know. I could go on and on.
Yeah.
I'll stop.
Fair enough.
All right, man. What was your hidden gem of the weekend?
Yeah, my hidden gem. It's hard to say that whether I was really that surprised given the title of this game,
Mm-hmm.
but I had the opportunity to play this game called 878 Vikings, and
878 Vikings.
I pre-committed to this game because in the text thread leading up to the trip, our friend Josiah posted a list of games that he was planning to bring, and I immediately responded, Josiah, I will play any game titled 878 Vikings. That sounds amazing. So we get there, and I'm telling him, when are we going to play 878 Vikings? He's like, well, it's the year 878. I'm like, still, I'll play. All right.
Cool. Awesome.
When are we going to do it? So we finally got 4 people together, and this game, it made me nervous when we started to pull it out because I was like, oh, dude's on a map. This is going to be Risk, maybe? And he's like, yeah, but it's 2v2 Risk. 2 of us are playing as the invading Vikings, and 2 of us are playing as the defending Britons.
Yeah.
Right? And so you've got the Vikings invading the island of Britain in the year 878. And this dynamic was so cool. I've never played a game quite like it. So the main...
Was it, though?
Yes. I must share, and we're going to hear from Bill on this game too, because
do you think Bill's team won or lost?
Because Bill was playing as the Britons, and Josiah and I were playing as the Vikings. Because we started the game up. I'm like, Josiah, who let's be on a team. Who should we be? And he's like, well, Vikings. I was like, thank God, because I don't want to play this game if I can't be the Vikings.
Huzzah!
So we get going, and it's a 2v2 strategy game basically, in which you have the Vikings invading in sort of different waves throughout the game,
mm-hmm.
and it's completely asymmetrical. So you have 4 players. They all have different factions, for lack of a better term. So I was playing the black team as the Northmen.
Yep.
Josiah was playing as the Berserkers, represented by red. And then I can't remember the breakdown between the two Britain teams, but they're
like the trained elite troops, maybe, or the trained soldiers, and
Right.
then like the regular guard thing.
the blue and green represent the factions of Britain, and the main, I guess, differentiator between those four classes is the handful of dice that you chuck throughout the game to perform attacks and whatnot. We also had the luxury of this really cool thing that our friend Ken 3D printed these dice towers that were like turret style
medieval towers.
Yeah, medieval stone towers. So we're like dropping dice into these things the whole game, and it's just super cool. And so the main differentiator is these handfuls of dice. They have different like ratios between like, you know, axes for hits and horns for like repositioned troops and running away. And as you might guess, the Vikings are like geared toward more hitting,
slaughtering.
Yeah, and all the Britons are scared and run away more. And
we're just plain dying.
And the balancing factor is there aren't that many Viking troops entering the game throughout the course of the game.
Right.
And
they're invading.
Right. And every round, more and more British
right.
defending troops enter the fray.
The population is entering the war, yeah.
Right. And so
makes sense.
It just really surprised me because you have these you're strategizing about like, okay, what cities are you going to take? Because the sort of deciding factor in the game is the breakdown of control of the cities represented on the map, right? And so it's something like if you get these treaty cards out onto the board, and at a certain point in the game when all the treaties are out, the Vikings have 9 cities controlled, then the Vikings win, and that is out. That is how we won. But yeah, it just was so cool to be like having this table talk with my partner about, hey, you know, when should we play that card? What do you want to do? Should we move these guys over here? Should we pull those guys into there? And then we'll have this, front. I just really enjoyed that dynamic at the table.
Yeah.
And I also really liked beating Bill. So.
And I really enjoyed being beat, I would just say.
Did you though?
More often.
So what's your perspective on 878 Vikings as the defenders?
I'll talk a little bit more about the dice. The Berserker were the strongest of the group, and 4 out of 6 of their numbers were deaths. They had axes on them, and they would kill you. The black side, 50% of them had axes and would kill you. On the Brit side, our elite troops were 50%, and whatever my troops were, the green guys were 30%.
And the yellow peasants just ran away more or less immediately.
And on the Brit side, our troop refresh, our cities would refresh like 1 or 2 troops all across the map. So we were pretty spread out everywhere. And so certainly the Viking strategy was to kind of knock out our income of troops.
Yeah, your hubs.
Best I could. And that's also the winning condition. So it was interesting being on the Brit side, trying to figure out where they were going to land, because they pretty much had a choice of anywhere. At least in the first part of the game, they had the North Shore, and then somewhere in the middle, they could do the whole island kind of thing.
Wow.
So we were trying to figure out where do we...
So you don't know where they're coming in. So is this
know.
a thing like where you, Cameron, and your partner, like little mini discussions off the board? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we were doing the same thing with Brett. Brett was my partner, and he was awesome. But the other wrinkle about this game is when you're on defense, there's a deck, and you have cards that you play, by the way, and that tells you, how many of your armies you can move, how far you can move, and then there's some special cards that come up that give you like superpowers as well. But anytime the Brits are attacked, there's a peasant deck that you flip over a card that will tell you how many peasants show up for the battle.
Okay.
And so they have dice too, and I think they're like
the range is like 2 to 5 or something.
Yeah, but I think they're like a third hit too or something. They're very low.
Yeah.
But they're only there for that battle and disappear. So to me, from a strategy point of view, the Brits kind of wanted to be on defense all the time, or it made you think we needed to be retreating because we get 4 or 5 extra armies every time if we did that, or really like 2 to 5. But I tell you, it's disheartening. You come out. Josiah was rolling hit after hit. I mean, he, like every time he rolled, probably the first 10 times, it was 2 people in the army were just getting killed, And so, there was, I didn't feel like there was any strategy that I could do. I was putting my armies where they told me I had to do it, and we'd kind of group stuff, and we'd try to bring them up to the front lines. There was one, fairly cool interaction where Cameron and Josiah decided to split, and they attacked us on the southern shore.
It was a bad move.
Well, but you also didn't know there was a card that was a spy card that allowed you to bring up an army.
Oh, yeah.
That was kind of secret. So we had an adjoining city that basically allowed us to double the size of our armies. So from
Nice.
it ended up
it was an ambush. We thought we were like sneaking in from the bottom. He's like, well, actually, we're gonna play this card. We're gonna move all these guys over to where you are, and now you have to fight
pretty cool,
a 2x army, 2x larger army than you thought.
That's cool. I'm glad stuff like that is in the game. Yeah.
It was really neat and very surprising because like I wanted to play it because of the theme. I wanted to play it because I liked Josiah and he was excited about it.
Yeah,
and it did not disappoint.
That's awesome.
Cool,
good one.
All right, so of the games that we played. Or that you saw as you walked around the room, what game did you miss and didn't get to play this year that you really want to play next year?
I'll answer this one real quick. The reason I've been a little bit quiet is mine is 878 Vikings. I was so freaking jealous of you guys. When I saw it on the table, I love little games like this with just the little miniatures all over the board and just kind of has that like war room look to it. And I really I didn't realize this about it until you were explaining it to me that it was 4-player two-player teams, asymmetric.
Yeah.
So you're asymmetric slightly from your teammate, it sounds like.
Yeah.
But then you're also asymmetric and the other team is playing very differently from you. And just that aspect mixed with you've got like a partner to like conspire with and make plans with, and just doing a little dice chucking territory control just looked fun to me. I would really love to try this one. So this is the one that I didn't get to play that I was really wanting to try.
You must play green.
I'm all about defense, Bill. I don't have to be doing all the killing.
I'll
say hold the territory.
I think this game it was so good that I think the game experience is not complete unless you eventually play both sides. I think it would be very interesting.
Yeah.
One of my favorite games of all time is that way. In fact, a game is not complete of Lord of the Rings: The Confrontation unless you play both the Fellowship and the Forces of Sauron. So
true. I
think that would work great for a game like 878 Vikings too.
Awesome. All right, Cam, what did you miss that you wanted to try?
Yeah, I tend to go into these events without a whole lot of like plans, but there's like a couple of games that I don't get to play a lot when we're doing podcast games, let's say.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to play Terraforming Mars.
Oh, right. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
That game is usually on loop every weekend.
Basically, yeah. It got put away after like the first night and morning. I think it played once on Friday morning, and and then no one was really into it. People were busy with other stuff. So not this time.
Yeah.
Because it's a boring game.
That's terrible.
It's an amazing game, Bill, and you're wrong.
Okay. I'm glad I missed it. There was a game of Nemesis that you missed, by the way. So.
Oh,
I noticed that I missed it. I was having all this fun.
We had a great time.
We were in a good mood.
All right. Well, I'm not going to limit mine to one. I'm going to rattle off 3.
Oh boy, here we go.
It's the Psychic Pizza, which looked fun.
Oh yeah.
Psychic Pizza Deliverers go to the ghost town.
Yeah. That looked just kind of wild.
That's what you just like have to play also just because of the name.
Oh, totally.
Right.
Grand Austria Hotel. Chris Battles special.
You played it. I've never played it, but I know you played it.
I did.
Yeah.
Grand Austria Hotel.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You've not played that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, maybe, but I don't remember.
Yeah. So of games that were not new to me, this the one I'm enjoying the most right now. You must play this 3 players only. I want to make that very clear, or maybe 2 players. I don't play 2-player games like this a lot, but do not play this at 4 players. I repeat, do not. And the reason for that is the actions, they snake. So in a 4-player game, if you're first, you'll take action 1 and then you'll take action 8. So you wait all the way until everybody has gone twice. It's like a snake draft in fantasy football.
Right. Oh.
So simpler example, in a 3-player game, you're first and 6th. The other player goes action 2 and action 5, and then the last person does 3 and 4 back to back. So in a 4-player game, it takes forever for it to get back to your turn. It's just way too long, too much downtime. But at 3 players, highly recommend. I'm digging it right now. I've been playing it a ton in Yukata. I think it's just great.
Okay.
Yeah, got to play it.
Yeah, I might check it out on Yukata then. And World Wonders.
Yes.
I was excited to get it tomorrow.
Yeah, I think you'll like it.
Cool. Awesome. Well, real quick.
Honorable mentions?
Honorable mentions, but I'm also...
One game.
What's that?
Just one.
No. I asked
Oh,
the
shoot,
people.
that's right.
I asked the people to tell us what their excited games were. And I did a little bit of a...
You polled the audience via text.
Poll the audience. So you'll hear a couple more games here. Chris Battles, was most excited to play
Freedom 5.
Freedom Pride.
Which we played with him.
We did, which was fun.
It was quite an experience. Very thematic, very colorful, very superhero-y, very long. That's the one thing. It was long. But
largest box award though. Maybe.
Huge box. Holy crap. But really cool theme. And I was glad that we played it.
Yeah, I'd love to have a group of friends to play a campaign in that.
Yeah.
I think that would be fun. And Schadenfreude was his other one.
Oh, okay, nice.
And his hidden gem was Tower Up, Skate Summer, and Potion Explosion.
Ocean Explosion.
Oh, man, Tower Up is my other miss. I saw people playing it, and I'm a big Metropolis fan, and I didn't get to play that one either.
Yeah. Our Discord kind of poo-pooed on Tower Up a little bit like they did at Potion Explosion, which just shows that not all of them have great taste.
Just kidding, we love
Carson.
you guys.
Right. That's too funny. Josiah, of course, liked 878 Vikings. His favorite was Star Wars Rebellion.
Oh,
which
wow.
looked pretty cool on the table.
I've still yet to play that, and I'm being reminded why I haven't, although I own it, because that game that they played, it took 6 hours. They were over there all day.
I've never not regretted playing a game that took 5 hours.
Dude, it was insane. And they played a lot longer than we played Freedom 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think they said it came down to a single turn at the end or something like that.
Oh, really? Wow.
So, yeah,
but I'm glad they all had fun.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. His best surprise were Rising Sun, Psychic Pizza, and Medici.
Oh, nice.
Let's see. I won't say Ken because I guess Ken's going to do this.
Yeah, Ken will be on next episode.
Alex liked Tobago.
Ah, yeah.
Ken liked Skate Summer.
Wow.
And said, don't listen to Ken on that.
Okay.
And that's all I got.
Got a feeling that might be Ken's biggest disappointment. Okay, I love it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think we got time for one more quick honorable mention. Just a quick honorable mention, just a few words about it. Just for funsies. Bill, I know you're chomping at the bits.
Oh, Willie.
One more real quick.
All right, last one. Last Light. I thought that was kind of fun, even though Chris won.
I did.
That has cool table presence. There's a bunch of spaceships. You're all fighting for lights. And I just felt like my strategy at the beginning wasn't a good one, and I feel like I could have a better one the next time I play, so I want to try it.
I have lots of thoughts about this game, but I'm going to save them because I'm going to talk about this game next episode.
Yeah.
Cool.
Will it be in a positive or negative light? See what I did there? You'll have to tune in to find out, but I definitely have thoughts on this one, but I'm going to save them.
Fair enough. So, yeah, my honorable mention would be a game that our friend Alex also liked, which is called Tobago.
Yeah, man, this is a cool game.
This one surprised me in the sense that I've never played a game that was like this. So you're trying to identify, you're an explorer, you're trying to identify and locate a number of treasures throughout the game.
Yep, on the island.
And the way that you're doing that is you have a hand of cards, and those cards have essentially things on them that represent rules.
Yeah, logic rules.
That would sort of forcibly narrow down which hexes on the map that treasure could be in. The treasure can only be in one of those hexes.
Yep.
And so it'll be like, it is in a mountain region. It is not within 2 of a palm tree.
Yep, and that's narrowing it down and narrowing it down. Yep.
And I really enjoyed it. I won this game twice, but I think usually there's a correlation between like if I win a game and I am liking it because I actually am understanding it.
Yeah, right.
And I'm not sitting there the whole game like frustratedly trying to like understand what in the world I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah, I just got this game and had a lot of fun with it. And it's interesting too because there's incentives for just kind of being a part of
Correct. Yeah.
Of different treasure
You don't
hunts.
have to find the treasures to do well in this game. It helps.
Yes.
But it is not the end-all be-all, which is what I like about it, is that it's not just a mad dash to dig up the treasure. If you're just part of being a contributor and locating where it is, that is good for you also, right?
Yeah, so I found myself having fun because, like, the other thing, too, is, like, you have to – it takes a bit of work to, like, replace all the cards in your hand. So you're sitting there going, like, how can I not waste a turn, like, reconfiguring the cards that are in my hand and instead make any of these cards work? It was a lot of fun. Played it twice, enjoyed it both times.
Yeah, this game is really neat. It is quite old at this point, but I will say it is very unique. Now, I'll preface that by saying I've never played Cryptid, which I've heard is pretty similar, but I don't know. It just felt very fresh.
Yeah.
You know, it just...
I was surprised when you told me this game is as old as
Yeah.
like in what, 05 or something like that?
It's
Or
back
2010
there.
or something like
Yeah.
that?
It's back there. But yeah, I think it still holds up, and it's just clever, you know? So yeah, I like that one. Real quickly, for mine, my honorable mention is not a good game. So you remember how I said I played a lot of games that were kind of disappointing. So I'm going to throw another one out there just as a warning.
This is funny you're going this route.
I am going this route. I'm going to go with one that I would avoid. And this one really shocked me. It really did. Because I've heard so many good things about this game. And, you know, we talk about the Dice Tower a lot on here, and we respect them. You know, they're a pioneer in the reviewing field. I think they have great opinions. I'm not digging I'm not trying to throw shade at the Dice Tower, okay? I'm just saying that the main reason I was excited about this game is this is Tom Vassel's #1 game.
Mhm.
So for years, Cosmic Encounter was Tom's favorite game. Years. And then briefly it was overtaken by Project Elite. And now his new #1 is Ready, Set, Bet. And we
What?
play... Yeah. #1.
Ready,
This guy's
Set,
played
Bet.
like 7,000 games. His #1 game is Ready, Set, Bet. Okay.
I don't understand that.
I don't understand it either. Okay, and I'll explain why. So, I think the main thing that this game has, there's a few things, but the main thing this game has going against it is that it really competes heavily with another game that we all really like. That, in my opinion, it's just inferior to, and that's Camel Up.
Right. Yeah.
So Camel Up is a betting racing style game where you're placing bets on camels and some really funny things can happen, and it's just exciting. Every time
Yeah.
a dice falls out of the pyramid, it's exciting,
So fun.
right? Ready, Set, Bet is trying to capture that same feeling in that you're betting on horses, and you've got lower probability horses, you've got higher probability horses, and there's all kinds of bets you can make on the board. Just straight winners, who you think is going to come in second. I think these horses will finish better than these, and you're kind of all at the same time placing chips out on these locations to
Right.
place bets. That's all fine. The problem with the game is that it's kind of slow.
Mm-hmm.
And the game itself actually isn't that long. Like a race is maybe a few minutes long, but what's weird about it is you're just continually rolling dice over and over again.
Right.
And then every time you roll, you're moving a single horse forward. And so for the first, like, 2/3 of the game, you're just kind of watching it evolve, right? Now you're betting, but it's just not exciting. I felt like our group was trying to infuse excitement into it,
Yeah.
but it kind of felt like
Everyone's
forced.
hollering and stuff like that, but like trying to capture the feeling of
Right.
the tension of a real horse.
It's almost
race.
like we were trying to bring the game up to a level of excitement that, to be quite honest, Camel Up just does not require.
Yeah.
Because Camel Up is freaking hilarious.
It felt in the end like no one really cared what happened.
No,
Ready, Set,
I mean,
Bet.
like the last couple of minutes or seconds, I guess, right before they cross and you see who wins, it gets a
Yeah.
little exciting. But I don't know. It just kind of fell flat. And immediately when Ready, Set, Bet was over, a group of people went and started playing Camel Up.
Yeah.
It's just better.
Yeah.
It just is
Well,
more
the other thing is like
exciting.
when you get to the end of the actual game, it's like, do you even really care if you won?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, yeah, all right, okay.
I couldn't even remember what I had bet on. There's just like all these crazy prop bets all over the place. Again, I get what they were trying to do, but in execution, it just is inferior to Camel Up, honestly, in my opinion, in almost every way. So I would say that if this has been on your to play list, you can just avoid this one. I just didn't find it fun at all, honestly. So ready, set, bet. It's just solidly meh.
All right.
Too funny. I guess we're not going to get on Tom's show anytime
Downer.
soon. Right.
Still haven't done Tom Vassal's Most Notorious Reviews Part 2. I haven't forgotten. I've got the games.
Oh, awesome.
But we have a precedent of not completing series, and I want to uphold that. You never know when it might come. It might be next month. It might be next year. But it's coming.
That's right.
It's going to keep you on your toes, you know?
I played so many good games that you're not letting me talk about.
Nope.
So,
Not
all right.
cutting you off.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us on this inaugural episode of Extended Banter.
Extended Banter.
It's been a lot of fun to just kind of reminisce and look back on a really fun 2025 annual board game retreat for our game group. Hopefully this inspires you to gather your own game group and go to a lake house or something and hang out and play games for a weekend.
Do it.
Hopefully you heard something that you haven't heard of before that maybe inspire you to try a new game that you heard on the show today. Keep in mind, we do offer another show that is pretty much always just this format over on Patreon. That's our Hidden Gems Backstage podcast. You can get in there for any of the tiers. They all have access to Hidden Gems Backstage from 2 all the way up to 10. If you want to be a gold miner, you can get a guaranteed game review. We love doing that on behalf of our patrons. Those guys are so amazing. We're going to record a backstage episode right after we get done here. So you can go over and check that out. Thank you guys for joining us on Hidden Gems. I'm your host, Cameron.
This is Chris.
This is Bill.
Thanks for listening.
This episode of Hidden Gems, number 72, was recorded in Raleigh, North Carolina on January 19, 2025. Hidden Gems is produced and edited by Chris Alley, Cameron Lockey, Jason Yanchuleff, and Bill Arney. Board Game Geek Guild is monitored and managed by honorary Hidden Gems team member Ghidorah. Our Discord channel is monitored and managed by honorary Hidden Gems team member Snoozefest. The show's logo was illustrated by designer and artist Caitlin Nieto. Check out her work on Instagram, and it's Caitlin Nieto. We would love to hear from you. Feel free to join the discussion on our social media accounts. You can find us on Instagram at hiddengems.podcast and X at hiddengemsboard. Disagree with one of our reviews? Have something you want to say about one of the games we discussed today? You can also make your voice heard on our Board Game Geek Guild at boardgamegeek.com, number 3874, and on our Discord channel. Once again, thank you for joining us on Hidden Gems. Until next time, fellow gem seekers, enjoy your games, enjoy your search.